A lot of AI-generated characters look perfectly fine at first glance, especially if all you're doing is walking, running, or idling. But once you start animating them more aggressively, things like crouching, squatting, climbing, or combat motions, problems start to appear. You get shearing, collapsing joints, and deformation that just doesn't hold up. In this video, I want to talk about what production ready actually means when it comes to 3D character meshes, and why that definition depends so much on context. I'll be comparing an AI-generated character I'm working on for my own game to a professionally authored model, focusing specifically on topology and joint deformation. We'll look at different meshes, different densities, quad versus triangle topology, and a few practical techniques to get AI meshes closer to something you can actually use. I'm not approaching this as a professional character artist. I'm looking at it from a pragmatic indie dev perspective, where time is limited and trade-offs matter. By the end of this video, my goal is that you'll have a clearer sense of when topology really matters, when it doesn't, and how to decide what production ready actually means for your project. So we're going to start off here looking at the character that I purchased on the Unity Asset Store, professionally created, hand-modeled, and this is going to be our reference for what good, clean topology actually looks like in practice. So this model is sort of a semi-realistic looking character. She's got modular armor and clothing, she's got modular hair, and most importantly, she is rigged for animation, which is where we're going to be focusing our video on here today. So you can see 42,000 faces, 64,000 tries, so not a huge amount of polys, but still pretty high up there. But again, there's a lot going on here. So you can see it was made in Maya without plugins, and rigged, and all these kinds of things that we're looking for. So this is going to be kind of our baseline, right? Like this is, if we could get AI to do something like this, that would be ideal, which obviously we can't. But as I'm going to show you here, there are definitely ways to get close. So I've pulled this model into Unity here just to take a little bit of a closer look. And like I mentioned, the armor is modular, so you can show and hide different pieces of it. We're not going to really be focusing on too much of the modularity here in this video, but I just kind of wanted to show what this model provides kind of out of the box, because it's important to understand as far as the topology goes, what the model looks like in practice here. So as I'm kind of playing around with the different parts of the model here, I will go ahead and switch it into wireframe mode here just so you can take a look and see what that looks like. And as I zoom in here, you'll notice very clean topology, especially around the joints. So for example, the legs and the knees and things like that. And this is where our focus is going to be. So as you'll see with the character that we end up creating, when you use AI generated meshes out of the box, you'll get lots of deformation, lots of shearing and things like that. And so just to kind of show you inside of Blender here, I've pulled our Swordsman Girl model in, and you can kind of see here the knee bends, it's very smooth, there's no shearing or deformation or anything like that. Again, the topology here is really what's going to be key. This is kind of what we're trying to target when we create our 3D models in AI. So here's where we're starting with our Nalia character, and I kind of based her off the look and feel of our other character, Colwyn, who I've featured in a few previous videos before. So we're starting off the same here, and we're going to go ahead, and I'm in 3D AI Studio right now, and again, you can use any sort of tool that has access to Nano Banana Pro here. But I like to do some editing before I actually generate the 3D model, and this is after having spent some time creating a lot of these models. I can immediately see issues with the way that the image looks, so I'm putting in a little prompt here to say smooth out the leather on her arms, get rid of the bracers, get rid of the leather skirt, smooth out the pants as well. These are all little details that might look nice, but they can definitely cause animation issues. If you really want the wrinkles and all that kind of stuff in the clothing, you can still probably keep it in there. It won't cause too many problems, but for this particular demo, I kind of wanted a nice clean model to start with, so we eliminate any other possible sources of deformation or shearing. Okay, so once I've created the image and I have it in a state that I like it, I'm going to load it up here into Image to 3D and generate with Hanyan 3D. So This is the 500K model, and to my surprise, the fingers actually came out kind of smushed together, unfortunately, and I've been running into this a lot lately with this T-pose, with the arms outstretched like this. So what I've actually been doing is going in and editing it to say make the palms facing forward and fingers spread out. That way the 3D image generation it's a lot clearer to it exactly what you want out of the finger geometry here. So I'm going to go ahead and do another edit and load it back into the image to 3D, and now you can see here we've got some nice looking figures that aren't smushed together. So here's our 500K model on the right there, and then in the middle is the 50K model that I also put together. And then finally we will also have a low poly. This is a separate option inside of 3D AI Studio for really low polys. In this case, I think it came out to around a little under 10K. So zooming in here, you can see this topology is messy. You know, there's triangles all over the place. It's not those clean quad loops that you saw in the Swordsman Swordsman Girl model, the professionally created one earlier. So we're gonna go ahead and see how these look just out of the box. So I'm using AccuRig to do the rigging here, and just kind of wanted to show you quick what this looks like. So you pull your FBX into AccuRig and place these markers on the different various joints on your character. And once you get it rigged up, you can preview some of the animations inside of AccuRig here. So we're looking at the 500K model right now. And in here, it doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty smooth. But as we get into this further, I'll kind of show you some of the issues with the joints inside of Blender. So you can see there is a little bit of between the legs, some of those vertices are attached. You know, that's easily fixed if you just adjust the image and make the legs a little further apart so the weights don't pull as heavily when you place those markers. So here's the 50K model. Again, we're just taking a quick look at some different poses. You can see for the most part, it doesn't look terrible, right? There's certainly some weird deformation in a few places, but you know, I made this mistake early on of thinking that these models were perfect and ready to go just by pulling them in, not messing with the topology at all, and just letting them be. But we'll get into a little bit more here of exactly where these things fall apart. So this is the low poly model, and again, it doesn't look too bad, but even here you can kind of see around the thighs some of that deformation, you know, and she's just barely bending her knees. So now I've pulled these into Blender, and this is an annoyance that I've found with AccuRig rigged models in Blender. So when you first pull them in, you get them all distorted like this. So what you need to do is select it and press RX -90 plus enter with the bones rotated after going into the rest position there, and then RX 90 and enter, and then basically what we're doing here is resetting the pose so that the bones and the mesh line up. So a little bit annoying every time you pull something in from AccuRig into Blender here, but that's basically the easiest way to deal with it there, is to do those rotations. So again, once I switch to the pose position here, she'll end up laying on her back because of the rotation we did before. So you just want to select both of the bones in the model and hit RX 90 and enter. And then you want to reset all transformations to be centered. So hit Control A there, and then reset all transformations. Now, just to go back here and take a look again at our Pro model here. So this is that Swordsman Girl again, just to remind you what the knee deformation looks like for a professionally designed and modeled, you know, mesh here. And so let's take a closer look at the 6K model. So as you can see here, look at that distortion, right? You know, it's bent at weird angles. The front, you know, the quad is moving. So any sort of animation that is involved with, you know, tight knee bending will look pretty bad. The 50K model here, the shearing on the triangles in the front knee are just, it's bad, right? And you don't see this stuff immediately because you're looking at really simple animations like walking and stuff. But this is important because if you're doing animations like squatting or anything that involves, more extreme bending of the joints here, you're going to notice this in game, and that's just going to be throw things off. So one idea I had was, well, I wonder if it's the mesh or the rigging. So I had this idea to experiment with this a little bit and pull in our Pro model into AccuRig and re-rig the thing with AccuRig. One thing I found actually quite surprising here is that normally I have to manually place these for the hands, but with this model, it instantly found all the finger joints without me making any changes at all. So as you can see here, animation still looks great on this character. The topology, that's what it comes down to, right? The topology is solid, so rigging, regardless of what sort of rigging software that you use, it's still going to look good because the topology is right. So here's another look inside a Blender with the AccuRig, and it's not the exact same as the rig that the model came with, but it still looks really good, right? There's no shearing, there's no distortion, the knee looks fine. So what are we going to do? We need to figure out a way to get this looking at least closer. So I discovered this remesh model here in 3D AI Studio, and you can go in, you can choose Ultra, you can choose Pro. I found actually that Ultra works the best, and so I'm specifying a face limit of 25K here. And under the hood, I discovered this is actually using the Tripo remesh tool, so you can use it through 3D AI Studio. You can directly go to the Tripo 3D tool as well online and use it directly there. But what I did is I chose the quad remesh, which that's what we want, right? If you look at the professionally designed models, a lot of the loops are quad loops around the knees and the legs and things like that. So I redid this, and it's got 25K faces, about 47K triangles, and finally got something that looks at least somewhat similar to the professional model that we're using. Now, of course, the arms and the legs look pretty good. The face is kind of flattened out though, because without those tries, it's just not looking quite as detailed as you would get out of even like a 40K try model. So here's again what this looks like after rigging, and it looks pretty solid. Walking animation looks good. She's generally looking all right in terms of simple animations, but again, we saw this with the other models, so the real test is going to be this knee bend. So I got the rigged model into Blender here, and look at that. We actually got something that does not deform, it bends naturally. You can see a little bit of the faces there on the front knee, but it's really not too bad compared to some of the distortion that we were seeing before. And once it's in game with shading and with textures and things like that, those little lines there are not going to be noticeable at all. Now, one thing that you can actually do here that I'm going to show to get rid of some of that, those lines, is you can add this smooth modifier here. So you just go to the modifiers tab and choose corrective smooth. You can play around with the factor a little bit, the scale, the repeat, kind of get it to look a little bit more smoothed out and natural. But this is just going to give you a little bit more of a natural bend for the animation as well. So great, we found a model that works great for joints, but I'm looking at this more, and the fingers are just not great. They're ugly. Quads in the fingers are just not ideal. So we're left in this state where we want the fingers, the hands from the 40K try model, but we want maybe the legs or the arms from the quad model. So I'm going to show you how to transplant a hand from the try model onto the quad model. So you can do this in both ways. You could transplant it from the try model to the quad model, or the other way around, depending on which areas of the mesh that you want to copy over. But what I'm doing here is I'm trying to get these lined up as closely as I can Now, you don't have to get this perfect because we're going to use the shrink wrap tool here in a second to line up the vertices, but you do want to get it pretty close. So I'm just eyeballing this. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm focusing in on the wrist area because what we're going to do is bisect the wrist there and basically cut off the hand from the tri model where it's nice and detailed and attach that onto the quad looped model. So I've got both objects selected right now, and I'm gonna go ahead and go into edit mode here, and then I'm gonna select a group of vertices. This is kind of important because what you want to do basically is only apply the shrink wrap to the area that you're going to be doing the cut on. So I went ahead and went into edit mode. I'm in vertex selection mode, and you just want to get like a little section of the wrist here. I tried doing this with the whole model and a bunch of stuff gets distorted. So now I'm going into the modifiers tab here, and what I'm doing first here is I'm gonna name this vertex group our wrist. So this is the vertex group that we're gonna want to assign and use for the shrink wrap modifier. So now I'm gonna go ahead and go back over to object mode, and I'm gonna select the 50K tries model, or the 50K remesh rather, and then I'm gonna go and choose a shrink wrap modifier, and I want to specify that vertex group, right? We just want to shrink wrap just that set of vertices. So you can see there when I applied it, it basically what it does is, you know, line up the topology so that when we make a cut with using the bisect tool here in edit mode, everything's going to line up just nice and tight. So I'm back over in edit mode with both of our objects selected here now, and I'm going to choose the bisect tool here over on the left, and then I'm going to cut. I'm going to try and make this as close to vertical as I can. Doesn't have to be perfect again. This is all kind of by eyeball. There are a couple different ways to delete the vertices to the left here, but I honestly just prefer doing it by hand so I can kind of see what's going on. You could do an edge loop select if you wanted to, but in this case I'm just going to go into face selection mode here. And so like I said, what we're kind of doing here is we just want to get rid of the old, this is the quad mesh, the bad looking hand that we want to get rid of. So I'm just deleting the faces here. Looks like there's a couple left over here, so I'm just kind of cleaning these up, and we want to get that nice and flat if we can. And then I'm going to go ahead and unhide the tri model and the triangles model, and basically delete the rest of the body. So we just want the hand. Now, if I were doing this for, you know, the knees and for the head and all sorts of other stuff, obviously I'd want to keep those around and attach them, but I'm just doing one example here as a demo. So now we've got a nice high detail, high poly hand, and I'm selecting both objects. I'm going to hit Control J to join them, and now we've got a nice combination of quad loop topology for the arms and the legs and the body. Now you see there's a little tiny bit of a gap, and that's probably not a huge deal. Doubt you'd even notice it in game, but if you're really worried about it, what you can do here is go back into edit mode and go to mesh cleanup, and then choose merge by distance, and that'll just fill in the gaps there for you. So that's basically all there is to it, you know. And I'm not demoing this in here, but you could obviously, if you wanted a highly detailed face, hair, you know, whatever, it's very easy to kind of transplant using the shrink wrap and then bisect tool to get different parts of geometry in place. So depending on look and feel of your model, kind of what you're going for there, you can see we've got a nice detailed set of vertices and faces for the hand, and then the arm is the nice quad looping. So you know, that's basically all there is to it. So we've effectively got a hybrid here. You know, so you'll see that the material did not copy over. There's, again, a few ways to deal with this. To be honest, the easiest way is just to retexture the model. So that's what I did in this case. Within 3D AI Studio, you can upload a model and then provide the original reference image. So I'm just going to load that up again and, basically tell it to retexture this thing for me, and that'll fix up the hand there so it's not black anymore. So once I hit generate here, you'll see it'll load up, and it looks like it made the texture a little bit darker, but you could clean that up in the texture painter or in the texture editor inside of Blender if you wanted to. So alright, let's get over into Unity and pull some of these models in. So when I pull this in, the very first thing I always do is change the rig to humanoid, and then I used my Hero Combat controller to rig up a basic player character motion. I'll provide a link to this in the description, and I just wanted to show you in action what these different models look like. So here's the Pro model. They both look pretty good moving around again. I mean, we're not overly concerned about these simple motions, but here's where I wanted to show you the real difference. So this is in slow motion, right? This is the Pro model, looks really good. Here's our remeshed model. And again, the knees, there's no deformation, there's no shearing or anything like that. Now here's our low poly model, and you can see right off the bat, look at the shearing. You can see geometry sticking out. It's ugly. And the 50K model, again, it just does not look good at all. And this is the sort of stuff that you kind of gloss over at first when you're working on these sorts of things, but when you pay closer attention, this is the sort of stuff that you see. So if there's one takeaway here, it's that production ready is extremely context dependent. What counts as a good enough character mesh depends on your game, your animations, your art style, and how much time you realistically have. I showed a few ways to clean up topology and get AI generated characters closer to something usable. But the goal here isn't perfection, it's to build something that feels believable, performs well, and fits the world you're creating. Don't chase perfect topology in isolation. Load it into your game engine, animate it the way you actually plan to use it, and judge it there. With today's AI tools and a bit of cleanup, you can get surprisingly close to production ready for a lot of indie games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.